something, and you can tell by his body language that there's something over there that's caught his attention. Now, I'm going to just try and reposition the vehicle slightly. No. He's continuing to move off there. We will have to move the vehicle now though. Let's see what he's up to. Louis, thanks very much.
No, no worries.
Where's he going? Now with 3 vehicles here, it's going to make it a little bit tricky, but there's a brief glimpse we're going to get of him now in the gap behind this vehicle. He's just sitting up looking in our direction. I wonder what it is that he's heard, but it's beautiful morning sunlight, and that right there is a perfect example of an absolutely awesome male leopard. He's got a huge neck and shoulders, and we're so lucky to be seeing him right now. Well, good morning, Billy Joe in Florida. Billy Joe would like to know, why is the Anderson male called the Anderson male, and who would have named him that, and will his name change? The naming of animals is always a large debate as to what animals should be named and who should name them. It's something that I try and avoid where possible because of the confusion that it causes. Because there are many different lodges that may all see the same leopard, as a leopard's territory may traverse large territories overlapping different lodges, you may find one lodge gives one leopard a name and another lodge gives that same leopard another name. They are usually names related to either habits of the animal, if they are shy or playful or aggressive, or of territories or roads or places where they spend time. Now I'm guessing there could be a dam or an area called the Anderson Dam or Anderson Road where that leopard may have spent time, but I'm not too sure of why he was called that. And it's something also to bear in mind. We have named Shadow's cub Sindile, but that is just us and you, the Wild Earth family, and it's essentially going to be up to the Arathusa and Djuma guides to decide on a name for that 8-month-old cub, and they'll usually do that at the time of independence. Anywhere from 18 months to 2 years is typically when a young leopard will be named. Good question though, Billy Joe, and as my answer suggests, it's slightly complicated arrangements and can vary from area to area. I'm just going to try and reposition the vehicle. He doesn't seem to be going anywhere, and we'll definitely be able to get a better view. I wonder what it is that he's heard. It could be that he was waiting at this termite mound with the knowledge that there could be something that lives inside of it. Now, as Andrew zooms out, you'll notice there's a large patch of sand that's been well trodden, and I think to the right of that sand is an entrance hole potentially into this termite mound, and it could be warthog that live in there, Male leopard will often lie in wait on top of termite mounds or next to them for warthog to come running out. This specific leopard has also become a master of catching aardvark, which also live in burrows. During the day they're nocturnal, and I'm guessing that he could be waiting for somebody to come out of this hole, if in fact it is an active den site for warthog or something else. It could also be that he can hear something elsewhere, further away. But what you can all see is that he is listening intently, he is very focused, and I think it could be something in this termite mound. Well, morning Costa in Greece, and thanks very much for sending your question through. Costa would like to know whether leopards will stay in the same area or if they move around and travel large distances. Now, typically how it works, Costa, is that male leopards, once they are sexually mature at around 5 years of age, will start to try and establish their own territory, and that territory, depending on the area, can range from about 5 square miles to 10 square miles roughly, but it does depend a lot on the area. In the Sabi Sands where we are here, a male leopard's territory will typically be around 3 to 4 square miles, but it does depend on the individual and how successful he is. Now, within his territory, excuse me, there'll be several females potentially, again depending on how successful he is. And females will have smaller territories, 1 or 2 square miles, 3 square miles, depending again on the individual and on the area. Now, within those territories, leopards will move around and explore every pathway, tree, termite mound. There are kind of areas where you may be more likely to find them, but there's no guarantees, and they do always keep us guessing, and that's why it's so difficult to find them, Costa. We can go for days without seeing leopard, not because they're not here, not because we don't know they're around, but simply because there are so many hiding places for them, and they are masters of camouflage and disappearing. Well, we were just chatting about the likelihood of there being some warthog in this burrow that he's waiting patiently at, and you wouldn't believe it, but James has found some warthog. So while we wait here, why don't you head across to James, have a look at the warthog, and we'll be sure to let you know if anything happens here.
Back to Jiga, everyone. You find us with a sounder of pigs, warthogs to be more specific, one of 2 pig species we get out here, and they are just grazing across this little sodic area, picking out the rhizomes, which are the nutrient dense and moist underparts of the grasses, and that's what they like to eat. You can see that's I believe you've been having a good time with the leopard with Scott, but we just wanted to quickly show you these guys. That one that you're looking at there is a boar. You can see that from his 2 sets of warts quite nicely there on the front of his head. He's very suspicious of us though. I'm just going to try and sneak forward. They are genuinely quite skittish. So let's just see if we can't get a slightly better view. One of them sat down like a dog. That's quite amusing to see. I'm not sure I've ever seen that before. So it's a sow in front, and you can compare the heads of the sow and the boar by the number of warts they have. Now that's the boar behind that ziziphus tree there. He thinks he's hiding. And he's got two sets of sort of, they're not really warts, but they're protuberances that come out behind his tusks. And they're supposed to, there we go. They're supposed to be for some form of facial defense, I think, when they're fighting over girls. See the little oxpeckers sitting on the sow's back? They're very suspicious of our intentions. There we go. Tails up. Testosterone-driven male is not being particularly brave in front of his family. In fact, he's being positively pathetic. He's just haired off at 100 miles an hour. There you go, the others followed closely by their oxpeckers. What a lot of people don't realize is that a boar warthog can weigh up to 100 kilograms. So that's 220 pounds. That's a pretty substantial animal. I mean, that's heavier than most human beings. And so they can do quite substantial damage to things like predators who might be after them. So in this area, it is unlikely that a female leopard, for example, would go for an adult warthog because they're quite a substantial threat. Big male leopards, yes, and especially young male leopards, they like to try their arm. But once a boar's got to his full size, there's not much that will take him, except maybe a private line. Okay, we're going to turn around now. We did find some leopard tracks on this road, so we're just going to drive back along them. Let's see what we can see. I'm sure Scott will stay with the leopard he's with, so he'll go back to him just now. A big front coming in front of us there. So that's you can see a cold front that's coming in from the east there, from the northeast, which is quite unusual. So I'm not sure why. That means it's coming in off Mozambique as opposed to from the Cape in the south. So that's quite interesting. But we can just feel a little touch of chill in the air. Bit of a cool breeze coming in front of that cloud bank there. But it has made the light just beautiful, isn't it? From Twitter, you'd like to know, welcome to this beautifully lit African morning. You'd like to know if warthogs like to live in termite mounds. The answer is yes. Normally, if they've been excavated by an aardvark or aardvark, it's always amusing to hear somebody from the northern hemisphere say aardvark. If they've been excavated by an aardvark where they've left a big hole, termites, at least warthogs, definitely like to go in there. So that's often where they will live, and they'll reverse in backwards so that if a predator sticks his nose in, they simply charge out and bash him on the face.
Check this picture of the park, that's a tractor.
So we're just following up. It looks like a young male leopard, and I'm told by my two colleagues, Scott and Brent, that there were two young male leopards that were in this area, and they haven't been seen for a month or so. And it's quite interesting to see, you know, a male leopard will stay in his mother's territory till he's about 2.5 years old, and then he'll start to roam. But they do often come back. They'll spend up to a month away, and then they'll come back and say hi, and then before disappearing off again. So it'd be quite nice to see one of these young males. I'm not sure you can get an impression, I keep going on about it, but how incredible the light is right now. It's just a stunning kind of yellowy blue golden color. It's wonderful. Were I to see a leopard in this light, I might become speechless with joy. So, just giving that question we just had, there's a warthog hole there, or there's a hole there that Brent is laughing because I've just bashed my knee and will be unable to walk for a week. So this hole here, I pointed out last night actually to some people, is where a warthog might live. Good question that. And this is precisely, they'll come in here and then they'll reverse in backwards, having investigated it first, because of course they may find something like a black mamba living in there, and it's not very nice to be bitten on the bottom by a black mamba when you're reversing into your burrow. So when you're walking, it's always, I told a little yarn last night about the time a friend of mine's guest was bashed by a warthog coming out of a hole like this. It's important to make sure that when you're walking in the bush and you walk past a hole like this, you make very sure that there are not fresh tracks of warthog there, because they'll burst out because they don't want to be cornered in the hole. Going to look behind us quickly to see if there aren't some tracks of this leopard. There don't seem to be any tracks. So we're going to carry on down this little road and see what we can see. Sense of peace on a morning like this when the light is so perfect. I'll do a little checkup on the weather later. It's not impossible that we could have very late sort of winter or early winter rains, especially if it's coming off Mozambique. I found something here and I do not know what it is. Brent, any idea?
Let me have a quick look. I think so.
It's some kind of gall or infection that the tree has got. This is a Combretum tree, probably a variable bush willow, Combretum calinum, and so this, I mean, it looks a bit like an insect would have created it, but it's not, it's wood. So it's possible that the tree has been infected by something and just developed a sort of cancerous or tumor or growth. Or it's possible that an insect has stung it and, you know, it's created this thing, rather like the insects the slender ant does with the thorns. but I don't see any entrance holes, and it's quite soft, sort of corky material. It's very interesting. Some sort of tree growth, but I couldn't tell you more than that, I'm afraid. On we go. Right, we're going to hand you back to Scott and the glorious male leopard he found, and we'll see you just now.
God. Welcome back, everyone, and Tingana is still waiting very patiently at the entrance to this warthog burrow. It is in fact a warthog burrow. We know that for a fact because just after you left us to go and look at James and the warthog, I spoke with Jason, one of the guides, and he said a warthog did come rocketing out of this burrow as Tingana walked around. So that would have been what he had heard, but the warthog managed to escape him. Now, that's not to say there aren't more warthog down in the burrow that he could be waiting for. There are also some impala making their characteristic rutting noise nearby that he also listens to, and I'm hoping he's going to decide to rather go and try and catch one of those impala, because if he waits here, he could wait for very long, and it wasn't long ago that he was seen waiting at the entrance to a aardvark burrow. I think that was with Brent for a portion of the time that he spent there. But he spent 24 hours in the same place, waiting patiently for the aardvark to leave, which it didn't, and he eventually gave up. Rose in California has just asked a very, very interesting question, and that is whether leopards will also experience adrenaline rushes just like humans do. And I'm almost certain that they do. Just like us as humans, adrenaline is a very critical function or feature that allows us to perform at abnormally high levels of intensity for short bursts of time, and that's to essentially save our lives. And it's no different to a leopard getting a fright and using that surge of adrenaline to boost it up a tree that much faster, or scramble away from any potential predators, and not only that, but also run after prey. So I certainly do think so, Rose, but I have not heard of any official studies on that, so I do stand to be corrected, but I find it highly unlikely that animals will not have adrenaline or something very similar to it, because just like us, they will also need that surge or boost of performance, either when hunting or even escaping predators, sorry. Now, I'm not entirely sure how much longer we can stay here for, because the radios aren't working, and therefore I'm not sure if there's pressure for other vehicles coming in to have a look at Tingana, which there very could well be. I'm going to stay a little bit longer though, and then hopefully we can head off and find something else, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of guests driving around on various vehicles that would all love to have a look at this beautiful leopard. And it's important for us to share sightings with all the vehicles just like they've shared this with us. Well, morning Angie in Ohio, and thanks for sending your question through. Angie would like to know if there's been any interaction recorded between Tingana and Mvula. And for those of you who don't know, Mvula is the dominant male to the east of where we are here on Djuma. Here we're on Arathusa, which is west of Djuma. And not that I'm aware of, I haven't heard any solid updates where people have actually seen Tingana and Mvula interacting with one another. That's not to say it hasn't happened, and I'm almost certain they would have brushed paths and shoulders at certain stages, because their territories do essentially overlap ever so slightly on the fringes. They're not clear-cut pathways or fences like we have around our houses. There's often a few grey areas. Now, I'm not sure though, sadly, whether Mvula has been actually seen interacting with Tingana and what would have happened in those interactions, but the amount of time we're spending out here, it's going to happen sometime. I've actually never seen male leopards interacting unless it's father and son. I've never seen two dominant males in the same sighting before, and that's having spent now 4 years in an area where leopard viewing is great. This area that we're in, the Sabi Sands, is one of the best for leopard viewing in Africa, and even still there's certain things that I've yet to see. Well, it appears that he has really got comfortable here, and like I say, he could spend 24 hours here, which is not a problem. I would be happy to sit here for 24 hours, but the problem is that we do need to make space for other vehicles, and I think now would be a good time. It's not looking like anything could happen. Having said that though, at any stage a warthog could come rocketing out of that hole and action could unfold, but I think we're going to move on. I'm going to answer one more question and then we'll go out and see what else we can find. Well, morning Brenda in Virginia. Thanks for sending your question through. Brenda would like to know whether this is the father of Shadow's cub, Sindile. And yes, in all likelihood, he is the father, or he simply thinks he's the father. If he wasn't under the impression that he was the father, he would have killed that cub and therefore allowed himself the opportunity to get his genes into his territory, which is typically how it works. Now, it is in all likelihood that it is Tingana who is the father, but it's not uncommon for leopardess to mate with several males and give them the false sense of fathership, which therefore increases the cub's chances of survival, as it doesn't matter which dominant male comes across them. If they all think they're the father, then everyone's happy, and leopardess are known to do that. Anyway, we are going to move on now. It's been a great sighting, and like I say, it's so important for us to maintain good relationships with the other guides in the area and let everyone have a chance of coming to have a look. So we're going to see what else we can find, and hopefully it won't take too long before we do find something. Well, we've really been so fortunate with the big cat sightings over the last few days. Yesterday morning we had Shadow, Brent at the Nkuhumas, then last night Nkuhuma Pride of Lion again, now Tingana. So the quieter drives we did experience for the last couple of weeks are now, we're not cashing in for the credit we accrued while all the animals were dodging us. Well, while Andrew and myself continue searching for anything exciting to share with you, we are gonna suggest that you head across to James and see how him and Brent are coming along, and we'll keep you updated if we find anything exciting. See you later.
Welcome back to Djuma, everyone. I hope you had a great time watching the leopard with Scott. I wish we had found a leopard today. Unfortunately, we haven't. The tracks of the male we were following have disappeared, and we are now on the trail of some elephants, I hope. But as the weather closes in like this, animal finding tends to become more and more difficult. And there's definitely a front coming in from the east, which is going to make things a little hard, but that's not to say we won't find anything. And we're looking quite hard for elephants, as I say. We're looking quite hard for any mammal, really. And the only mammals we've seen today have been the old steenbok and those pigs we showed you. And what else have we seen? And I think we saw one impala. So not a huge amount going on. Plenty of hyena tracks. It would seem that if you want to see hyenas, you have to knock about here in the night time, and there'll be hundreds of them everywhere you look. But it's still wonderful to be out here, where the air is fresh. The smell of the winter dust is great fun. And we've got a little bushbuck in there, spotted by the inimitable Brent Leo Smith. That's quite sweet, a little bushbuck lamb. Very sweet. Quite relaxed. Unusually, did you see the mother, Brent?
Just saw her.
Little baby on his own. You'll want to watch out is the leopard. At this stage of the day, I've normally taken me woolly hat off my head, but because it's a bit chilly, I'm going to keep it on for now. So the temperature is not warmed up like it would normally. To show you something here. It's not wildly exciting. In fact, it's on the edge of exciting and tedious, I would say. But I'm going to say that it's not so much what you say, it's how you say it. And so we're going to talk a little bit about this grass bush. And I'm going to see how exciting I can make a grass bush sound to you. This is Themida triandra, red grass, the most important grazing grass in all of Africa. Themida triandra, as you can see, has 3 magnificent heads on it. Beautiful heads of seed. And the most important grazing grass in Africa is an indication of the health of your grazing land. For the red grass leaves down here are what all grazers desire. And I'm in fact being quite serious. This is the most important grazing grass that we have in southern Africa. It's called red grass, and all the animals out here, especially in the summer months when it's fresh, will come and eat it. And one other interesting thing is that often people think of that this is what animals eat. Animals will normally go for the leaves. So here are the leaves on this grass are these bits here, but the stalks, once a grass has got to this stage, most of the nutrition is pulled out of the leaves and into the seeds. And so once it becomes like this, it's a bit like straw. So most of the animals will try and avoid it. So that is red grass, Tingana triandra. And you can let me know if you thought that that was the most exciting thing we've seen all day. Of Tingana triandra around this area. Doesn't appear to be attracting much except a cold front. Brent says left. We have an impala up ahead. We're going to go, and we're still following up on the elephant tracks we had. We're going to head up north towards some clearings. Now that impala is indicating to you how chilly it actually is. I'm going to try and get a little bit closer to him. He's doing something quite interesting. Doing something UI. Yeah, there are two interesting things about that impala that I can see. The first is that you can see how dark he is, and that's because he's lifted all of the hair up on his back. He's fluffed himself out a bit like a bird does in the morning, to trap as much air underneath him as he can, and so remain warm. The other thing to note about him is you can see his hip bones are sticking out. Now that is a very common state for an impala, big male impala at this stage of the year. Remember, he spent the last 3 months trying to herd females into sort of nursery herds that will allow him to mate, and impala forget to eat and they forget to look out for predators, and so they will lose condition quite a lot in the months leading up to the mating, which has just occurred. You can see he's not looking in great shape, that fellow. He's probably also had the odd fight. He might also be a bit old. The last few months have definitely taken their toll on him. If I'm not mistaken, he was selecting Tingana triandra for his morning snack. Right, on we go. Just to remind those of you who wish to interact with us, and we do, I must reiterate, we love having your questions. Hashtag Safari Live or questions at WildEarthTV. Brent was telling me last night that he couldn't remember that email address for love nor money. He can remember hundreds of different Latin names of trees, but that email address for some reason just wouldn't stick in his head, so he had to write it down on his hand or something like that and read it to you. Anyway, we love to hear from you, and please remember, we do get the odd person who says to us in a private message, you know, they're worried to ask questions because they're scared they might be stupid questions. There are no stupid questions. There are only very stupid answers. And we're not, yes, some questions do make us giggle a bit. But we love to share our knowledge, and we love to share everything about Africa with you. And while some of the questions might make us giggle a little, it's not because they're stupid at all. It's only because the frame of reference from which somebody who's never been to Africa is viewing this is obviously quite difficult for us to understand. So please, any questions you have, we'd love to hear from you, and we're more than happy to try and answer. And if we can't answer them, we'll find someone who can, or find a book or a website that'll do it for us. And we also especially like to hear from our younger viewers. New champions of the wilderness, people who might be inspired to go into a career in conservation. We'd love to hear from you too. Just going to turn off here and listen for 20 seconds. Off to my right is one of my favorite birds. Sure we'll see him. Just listen carefully. There are a whole lot of them calling around here. There he goes. Get him, Brent.
We can hear them nicely.
So that is the call of the white-browed scrub robin, but it's sort of, I'm not sure if it's an alarm call or if it's a, I'm not sure what it is, but they'd normally do it when, just as the sun has set, and they make that sound. There are a few of them doing it now.
If you go back, he's moved. Sorry.
Okay, he's moved. Yeah, but filming birds is not easy, especially when they're the size of your hand. But his normal call is that very lilting. Lovely sort of midday, hot, relaxing, soporific sound. And that's because an elephant has come and dug his tusk in here, pulled off a strip and ripped it up and almost stripped an entire side of the tree. And unfortunately, this isn't a very fresh one, but if we break stuff off, here we go, You can taste this. You can see, can you see the sort of fresh cambium layer there, Brent? Okay, now that fresh cambium layer is what the elephants are going for. And while it's not delicious by any stretch, you can definitely taste. You can taste the nutrients in it. It's like a sort of, trying to decide what it tastes like. It's a bit salty. Lots of tannin. All these trees use tannin to protect themselves from browsers. There's a real taste of almost vitamins. I won't have it for breakfast. I think I'll have something else. But you can definitely taste why an elephant would eat that. Right. Everything is proving elusive today, except the trees and the grass. Thank goodness for them. Vivian in Chicago, you have asked question as to how far away is Scott from me that I am dressed in a woolly cap and jersey and he is dressed in his shirt sleeves. The answer is not far enough for the latitude to make a difference to the temperature we're experiencing. But we are, remember Scott's been sitting in one place for much of the morning and we've been driving around. And so if we were sitting still, yes, it would certainly be comfortable enough to wear maybe a long sleeve shirt without a jersey. I mean, it's not freezing by any stretch. I'm wearing short pants. I do have exceptionally hairy legs, which sort of provides leg warming. But we're not far away. Scott is obviously extremely tough and manly, whereas I tend to be a bit afraid of the cold. I've had a question from Frikkie in Roodepoort, which is a spot just outside Johannesburg. He'd like to know about the herd sizes of antelope that we get in this area. Frikkie, you've mentioned seeing herds of antelope of up to 300 strong in the Kruger Park. There are certainly areas of the Kruger, especially in the south, or on the Gabbro Plains, where in the summer months they will attract sort of larger concentrations of animals. The vegetation here is different, so we're in sort of woodland areas, and we will get herds of buffalo. There was a herd of buffalo of about 200 strong yesterday, and we also get fairly large herds of impala. But it is a woodland habitat, which means that the herds will be slightly more fragmented than they might in parts of the Kruger where you've perhaps visited. Much in the way of birds to show you at the moment. Kevin from Boston has asked a question that might, to a more sensitive soul, be perceived as slightly offensive. Thankfully, I've lived with Brent for a while, so I have a very thick skin. He would like to know, what do animals do if they have broken bones, horns, and teeth, like my broken nose? Well, first of all, Kevin, my nose is not broken. If you would like a view of it. There we go. I'm not sure why it's that shape. It's probably some form of genetic defect. It's a Greek nose, although I'm not Greek. Secondly, and more importantly, animals out here deal with broken bones. They can survive just about anything. So If an animal breaks a rib or something like that, it might be able to survive. It just depends on whether they have enough to eat and whether they can avoid predators at the time. If they snap, say, a femur, then they're going to die. There's no way for them to survive that. But a broken horn tends not to be any form of desperate. So we've just got some hyena tracks here. A broken horn is not a desperate injury, and animals will often survive. So we often see one-horned impala or one-horned buffalo, and they get on just fine. And like I say, I've seen a monkey that's had it's had a leg severed and its hand broken, so totally useless, hanging useless, and it survives fine with just 2 limbs. Obviously that's not going to be the case for an antelope. It might be the case for a wild dog, because a wild dog's obviously got a pack, and the wild dogs will look after their sick and injured. But something like a lion, for example, that gets injured will be left behind by the pride and will die if it breaks a leg.
A 3-legged hyena in the village.
And there we go, and Brent's just told me about a 3-legged hyena that he knows of that survives fine. Just like I survive with my broken nose. Thank you, Kevin, for pointing that out to everybody. Send a picture of yourself, and I'll have a hard judgment. I'll have a hard judge at your profile. I'm afraid we're going to have to look for more trees in the absence of mammals. This is a Combretum apiculatum tree, or red bush willow, and you can see, Brent, if you just have a look at the base of the tree, you can see there that when this tree was birthed from the African soil, it was never meant to grow at the angle at which it's growing now. And as with so many trees out here, an elephant has had a go at it, pushed it over, and it started growing at an odd angle. But you can see I'm sitting now amongst a whole lot of branches that are growing horizontally or vertically towards the sky. And what happens is trees like this branch that I'm sitting on will slowly lose its importance to the tree, because the main branch or the main trunk, if it isn't attacked again by elephants, will start to develop from all of these branches that are now growing up towards the sky. So it doesn't matter, there's so many trees out here, it doesn't matter really which angle you push them or place them, they will eventually stick a shoot out that grows towards the light. An amazing adaptation that I think has probably evolved purely so that they can deal with the elephants in this area. It wasn't much of a tree climbing expedition, that, but nice to get close and personal with the vegetation. Down towards the water hole and see what's come to drink there. Perhaps a beefalo or 2, perhaps 35 lions, 400 wild dogs. perhaps just the odd bird. Plenty of hyena activity on the Bush newspaper from last night. Another one of those growths. See that, Brent?
That one looks different.
Let me go and have a look at this one. This might give us a better indication. For those of you who've just joined us, we found one of these a little while back. It's looked to be a growth of some sort on the tree. This seems to have been definitely bored into by an insect or two. So it's quite possible that it's created by an insect that has stung the tree and infected it with something, and it's created this growth of the ball. I'm quite tempted to break it open and see what's there, but we'll probably disturb what's in it. And maybe I'll just take a little piece off the top. That's what I'll do. Thank you. It looks like it's pretty uninhabited, these top pieces here. No, it's all vegetation in here. There are no larvae of animals. So it would seem to me that the holes here have come from wood borers that have come probably maybe subsequent to the gall being developing. There, you can see in there, it's quite green. It's like the normal flesh of the tree. See that there? So often, like on a terminalia tree or a silver cluster leaf, you find galls from a gall moth. But if you open them up, you'll find the larva of the moth. But here there are no larvae or caterpillars. Thank you, Brent. Not only is Brent a great cameraman, there's a walking toolbox. Forgotten about the almost impossible tree quiz. I just haven't found an almost impossible tree yet. Sherry in California has asked a very interesting question. Is this a part of Africa where prehistoric discoveries have been made? Absolutely. It doesn't seem to be a hotbed for dinosaur fossils, but certainly this part of Africa contains many ancient human remains and remains of our ancestors pre the Stone Age. And away from this particular area in South Africa, we have many sites of sort of dinosaur activity, and we have many sites of very ancient human activity or hominid activity, the most famous of which is the Sterkfontein Caves, which are just outside Johannesburg, and they're a whole limestone complex of limestone caves, where the most famous discovery was that of, I think it was Raymond Dart who found it, of an Australopithecine called Australopithecus africanus, which means southern ape man. And Australopithecus was dubbed Lucy. They called her Lucy, and she's a sort of sub-adult hominid that gave her I hate to use the term missing link, but was certainly one of the links between us and our ancient ancestors that diverged from the chimpanzee. And there's certainly many others around the country, in Taung and various other places. And then in a cave, and I think it's Blobos in the Cape, there we have some of the first, if not the first, evidence of anatomically modern human beings. So that's us, and that's probably from about 200, I think it's 180 to 200,000 years ago, where modern man as we know it, or know him or her, walked out of a cave down there in the Cape. So South Africa is a hotbed mostly of human origins. We're going to cross across to Scott, who seems to have found some water at a waterhole, which is not unsurprising. So we're going to cross to Scott, and we'll see you a bit later.
Welcome back, everyone, and what a beautiful scene it is here at Treehouse Dam. We've been watching this massive bank of clouds approaching from the east, and it was the same bank of clouds that we saw at the start of the drive, but it's moved very far and has now started to cover us completely. There's no more sun and the temperature's dropped a bit, so after taking off our jackets a little while back, Andrew's put his back on. I'm still braving the slightly chilly weather, but it has had quite a big impact on the temperature, this massive bank of clouds, and it's a rare sighting and a welcome sighting in winter, because we typically have cloudless blue skies during our winter, which make for stunning sunny days, and these clouds, I guess, therefore are quite rare, and I'm enjoying having them around. It makes for beautiful scenery, and it also keeps things nice and cool, so the likelihood of animals being active during the hotter parts of the day is increased. There's not much sign of life here at Treehouse Dam at the moment. There's one blacksmith lapwing that you may have heard just let out a call, dip, dip, and they're called blacksmith lapwings because they make a sound similar to that of a blacksmith working on an anvil. And there's also some fish that are occasionally rising up to the surface in the dam, but they're not going to be easy to see, so we're going to continue and see what else we can find. I am sad that I missed the operation that James has just been performing on a tree, dissecting it to show you a little bit more closely as to what exactly was going on there. Sounds very interesting, and I hope you enjoyed that. He does have a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure all of you are enjoying having him on our team. And just a reminder there is another interviewee coming. He'll be arriving today and we'll be able to...
Yeah.
Oh, we're back. You're back with us. You're back with us. Scott's satellite was hit by a Martian spacecraft, and so you're back with us. We're on some elephant tracks. They're almost as old as some of the fossils I was describing to you just now, and so we probably won't find them. But we are still lurking about in the area where we saw those male leopard tracks earlier, hoping to bump into something exciting. Well, not bump into them, obviously, or see them. Elephant dung on the road. Ooh, it's quite nice. It's a tortoise. It's alive. Brent says it's alive.
Drive up to the side of the drive. No?
Okay. I'm going to try and get into a position where we can film it and have a conversation about it at the same time. Brent, if that tortoise is alive, I will eat my hat.
Just checking if you're awake.
This tortoise... this tortoise... In the words of John Cleese in the parrot sketch, is no more. This tortoise is X. This tortoise is not... Ooh. I don't know. We'll probably get in trouble for showing the viewers this, but I don't know if you can see in there.
Hang on a second, I just need to change the settings.
Just change a setting and have a look. This tortoise is certainly not that long dead.
Maybe try a torch. Yeah?
So what's interesting... Yeah, I'll do it. Oh no, you've got a... Brent has just purchased himself a torch that will probably be used as a... used to be used as a searchlight for enemy bombers. You see in there?
Hold the shell down towards me a bit more. Just... Sort of, yeah.
Sort of, okay. So you can see the tortoise's innards are sort of liquefied in there. It's really fairly unpleasant smelling. In fact, I probably won't eat for the next week. But that was a leopard tortoise, and I'm really not sure what killed it. It's been eaten out from the inside, so something's got in there, but nothing's broken its shell. So it's possible it was bitten by something. It's possible it was. Maybe its head was grabbed by a bird or something like that, and then the bird ate the rest of it out. But it's difficult to say what killed it. Certainly the shell is entirely intact, so I suspect what happened was that the head was taken, and then the rest has been eaten out by carrion eaters, flies and maggots and delightful things like that you want to hear about just before you have your meal. Right, I'll be washing my hands before we get home. When we get home, but unlike first thought, that tortoise is well past his sell-by date. Ceased to exist. it would seem that the Martian spacecraft that took out Scott's satellite has in fact absconded with the satellite, so Scott won't be back with you this morning for the remaining 6 minutes. You will have to look at my broken nose. Thank you for that, Kevin. Also, tomorrow morning we have a new fellow trying out as Wild Earth expands, so we need to expand the number of presenters and guides that we have, and his name is Chris. So I would ask that you all go easy on him. Kevin, don't make any comments about his nose if you don't mind, otherwise he may never come back. He'll be on tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon. I think with just in the morning, sorry, Brent is eyeing me with big goggle eyes. So just the morning, and I think the other person out will be me at the time, so we'll be out together. Please welcome him with your normal friendliness, and let's see how he gets on. You can see how the front has now come completely over the top of us, and while it's not cold, it means it won't heat up like it normally does on the normally cloudless, low-felt winter days. Still searching for the almost impossibly tree quiz. Nothing's very almost impossible around here though. Especially for you lot, who seem to be able to identify trees on sight. It's very impressive. Kevin in Boston, thank you for your comment. I shan't repeat it on live, but I forgive you now for your nose comment completely. Thank you very much. No further leopard tracks, which is quite unusual. They're definitely hunting, perhaps. Why we don't take night drives? Well, we do to a certain extent, but there are a few good reasons. Firstly, it's difficult from a technical point of view. It's not that easy to film at night. And lighting and that sort of.
Where?
straight on the road. Well, there's something in the road. It may not be a baboon, but it looks like, yeah, it is a baboon.
Welcome back, and you couldn't have come at a better time. Look what we found. This is a very rare sighting. And so far it's only this one that I can see. I don't know what he's rubbing in his hands there. Could have been opening up a seed pod, it almost looked like. And he's certainly found something to nibble on. I think he's chewing on the seed of a marula fruit, trying to get into the nuts inside. Anyway, there's not much longer of the show. Yeah, I think he's digging out old marula seeds from the road. Awesome. And we don't get to see baboons very often, but hopefully we'll get to see him again this afternoon. He's very close to our camp, and what a good way to end another wonderful morning out here on Djuma and Arathusa. I hope you've all enjoyed the safari, and we've certainly enjoyed having you with us. Thanks so much for all of the questions that you've been sending through, and we look forward to this afternoon's adventure with all of you. So please tune in, and a big thank you to Eugene, who directed this morning's show in Final Control, and to Andrew on camera. We'll see you all a bit later on.